Hello and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host Rob, and in today's video we're going to be looking at another multi-class combination, this time focusing on the combination of Druid and Barbarian. And at the risk of losing subscribers, I will call it the Barbarian. Yes, I know, that was terrible. Feel free to unsubscribe. I deserved it. But I need to call it something. The basic idea of this is going to be that we're going to use our wild shaping combined with things like rage in order to get double the hit points out of our different wild shapes so that we don't revert to our caster form quite as fast. We're also going to be able to use reckless attack because a lot of times the animal forms don't have the greatest scaling of 2-hit, and the animal forms can start to become pretty irrelevant pretty quickly. But with reckless attack giving you advantage, it's going to allow you to maintain decent damage every round for a lot longer than you normally would. And the fact that enemies have advantage to hit you back isn't really as big a deal as you might think, because most of the animal forms also have pretty terrible armor class, so you're probably going to get hit a lot anyways. Now granted, you're going to get hit almost every time now, but like I said, it was probably going to happen regardless. So anytime we're talking about a multi-class build, the idea is going to be that we want to take strong core attributes of one class, combine them with the attributes of another class in order to make something that's hopefully stronger than either one would be on their own. And this is no exception. We also need to discuss things like breakpoints. How many levels of each do we want to have and why? And in this one, I kind of feel like I want to have mostly levels of Druid. This is because I'll have more animal shapes that way, I'll also have higher level spell slots, and I won't have to slow my spell progression as much. We're going to be getting our attacks mostly from the animal form, so having things like extra attack isn't quite as important as it would normally be if we were just playing straight up Barbarian. And we don't really have to rely on things like strength and ability score increases quite as much, because often we're just going to be using the stats of whatever beast we've taken the form of. So I would probably start as Barbarian. That's the first thing I want to say. Barbarian is going to give you 12 hit points at level 1 plus your con mod. That's 4 more than the Druid's going to give you, and that's a pretty big boost at level 1. More importantly, Barbarian is going to give you proficiency on strength and constitution saves, which will mean you also have proficiency on your concentration saves. And to me, that's going to be probably an even bigger deal. I'm probably only looking to take 2, 3, maybe 4 levels of Barbarian, depending if I need the extra ability score increase. But 3 I think is really a nice spot. This is going to give me a primal path, even though I'm only going to have the first rank of abilities. But it's also going to mean I can get up to 9th level Druid spells, assuming the campaign goes all the way to 20. And it's going to take a while, of course, but just the fact that that's even out there and is still a possibility is nice to have on the table. So like I said, I'm looking to take first level as Barbarian. I'm probably going to take a couple levels of Druid then in order to get my wild shape. I'm probably going to take my last couple levels of Barbarian just to finish it off, and then just all the rest of the way Druid. So that's kind of the game plan. As far as races go, I think there's a lot of good ones. Anything that's going to give you like bonuses to your wisdom, of course, is going to be strong. Wood Elf makes a particularly good choice with bonuses to Dex as well. Halfling actually makes a pretty good choice, some of the different ones. And it's probably at least worth mentioning that Hill Dwarf's not a bad choice, giving you the extra 1 hit point every single level. It's going to make you for a very stout, hardy caster. And I kind of like that idea. I also think that for roleplay purposes, this is the kind of character that could be a lot of fun, because I think that the idea of this nature-worshipping, animal beast-changing shapeshifter, and then the primal barbarian living out in the wilderness synergize very well together. It's not really a hard mix to try to put the two together and come up with some sort of like character or personality for it. And of course, different backgrounds can help to influence that. But things like like outdoors or I'm thinking of skills now. I was about to say survival, but things like Hermit and Outlander are all very strong choices. I think Folk Hero could be potentially interesting as well. But there's a lot of good choices there. As far as the key abilities go, I've already mentioned Rage. You're not going to have a lot of Rages if you only have 3 levels of Barbarian, so you're really going to need to save them for the big fights. But it's still a very important ability, so it's certainly worth mentioning. On our defense, mostly it's going to be important when you're not in your beast forms, but still worth mentioning as well. I'm probably going to go Totem of the Bear, because I'm not going to get high enough to get any of the good abilities from the other ones anyways, and taking half damage from everything except for Psychic is probably the biggest power boost that I'm going to be able to get for only a 3-level investment from any of the Barbarian subclasses. I'm not really as worried about getting extra damage. I'm not really as worried about a bunch of the other ones. The only other one I might consider is the Totem of the Wolf, which is also from the Primal Path, right? So either way, I'm probably going to go with one of them. I favor Bear between the two, but Wolf's pretty decent as well, allowing you to give your allies advantage on their attacks. You're also going to get Danger Sense and, of course, Reckless Attack, which I've already mentioned. And then from Druid, we're going to be picking up Wild Shape and, of course, later Combat Wild Shape, allowing us to shapeshift as a bonus action. We're going to have our various different circle forms that we can get, unlocking things like swim speed at creatures and things with flying speed. By the way, it's worth mentioning as well, the Druids are one of the ultimate scouts in the game. If you're in a city, they can turn into a rat or a spider or anything else like that. They can turn into a bird. They're great in urban scouting. You can turn into different animals if you're in a woodland scenario. They're just excellent in pretty much any terrain. Just pick something native to that region and go for it. And they're one of the best scouts or spies that you can actually get, especially at lower levels. Primal Strike is you're gonna be able to unlock, allowing your attacks in your shapeshift form to count as magical, and you're gonna be able to get Elemental Wild Shape, allowing you to change into elementals, and eventually 1,000 forms, giving you tons of shapeshifts per day. As far as spells, I only wrote down 1 or 2 spells of each level. I didn't want to do an in-depth thing. I think a lot of the spells you choose are going to be dependent on your group makeup, and that's generally true anyways. But in this case, I really didn't want to take a lot of combat spells, because I kind of feel like you're going to be in your animal forms anyways, and you're going to want to use a lot of your spell slots just to heal yourself, honestly. So I looked towards things like ritual casting, since that's good for druids. I also took some heals in case you need to fill that role more. And I also like summons on druids. I've already mentioned that before. And sure, you're not Circle the Shepherd, but it's still worthwhile to maybe have a couple summoning spells here and there. Combined with the fact that you're going to be proficient on the Constitution saving throws, means that you're probably going to be pretty good at maintaining concentration, even on things like elementals and stuff. For higher level spells, I took some more, allowing me to continue to change shapes and just kind of keep that theme alive. Things like Shape Change at level 9, I think, are an awesome choice for someone like this, even though you don't have access to those CRs of creatures normally from your wild shaping. You can get it from your spells. So I liked Primal Savagery for cantrips. For first level, I'd probably pick up Goodberry, almost guaranteed on a druid. If you need to be more of a healer as well, then Cure Wounds, of course, is always going to be a good choice. Second level, I wrote down Healing Spirits and Lesser Restoration. Third level, Conjure Animals, and Call Lightning. I know I said I didn't want to take a lot of combat spells, but that one's so good that it's pretty hard to pass it by. So I might as well, include it on the list. And you might want at least a couple combat spells, because you do have limited shape changing per day, and you're probably not going to be prioritizing, say, strength as much as a pure barbarian would, because a lot of the times you're going to be relying on whatever the stats are of your animal form, and so you pretty much just need enough strength to be able to multi-class in or out of barbarian and to fulfill your class requirements. because most of the time you're not going to be relying on your strength. You're not going to be attacking with a hammer or a sword or an axe or anything. At least, not if you have any other options. So having a couple combat spells isn't a bad idea. At level 4, I took Polymorph because it's one of the most powerful spells in the game at 4th level, in my opinion. And I also wrote down Conjure Minor Elementals to just kind of continue that summoner type of theme. I like Polymorph because you can change yourself, you can change your allies, you can change enemies. It's a very versatile spell. And it's even better when you're using it on yourself, I find, or on an ally. So that's probably what I'm going to tend to do. I'm probably going to just mostly use it on myself, as much for role playing as for anything else, just to kind of continue that idea of being a shapeshifter. For 5th level spells, I wrote down Conjure Elementals and Mass Cure Wounds, just in case you need to fill more of a healing role. 6th level, Conjure Fey and Druid Grove, just because A, Druid Grove is a good spell, and B, it's very thematic. I kind of like that. I think it has a lot of roleplay potential as well. At 7th level, I took Regenerate and Plane Shift. Plane Shift might not really fit in as well as some of the others to this overall theme, but let's be honest, it's a very versatile spell. You can use it to move planes yourself. You can use it as a form of crowd control if you need to. You could use it to escape somebody's force cage if they slam you into a cage. That's something we've done several times now, and enemies have done it to us. At 8th level, I liked Animal Shapes. That's going to allow you to change your allies into animal forms, which is pretty handy, and once again, fitting that general theme. And at 9th level, as I already said, I like the Shape Change spell. So I've kind of talked about some of the merits of the class and where it really starts to shine. However, I wouldn't say, like, comparing this to the last multi-class build we covered, which was Paladin Sorcerer. Paladin Sorcerer is a very seamless fit where there's really not a lot of conflicts anywhere, and in fact, adding all these sorcerer levels to your paladin just means that you're going to be able to smite even more. You're going to be able to convert, spells into sorcery points and sorcery points into whichever thing you want. You're going to be able to do things like cast spells as a bonus action, still allowing you to attack. It's really a combination where you're just taking all the great things of paladin and then just making it even better. This one, I don't know that it's really that. If Paladin Sorcerer is a 10 out of 10 for multi-classing, because it's one of the strongest there is, this is about an 8. There are some conflicts, and there are some problems. Number one is going to be the fact that outside of your shape changing and your wild shape, you're not going to be as good of a fighter. I mean, sure, you can take a race like, say, Goliath or Half-Orc. You can really concentrate on strength a lot more. But most of the time, you're going to want to be in animal forms, I think. And if you're not, you're probably going to want to be casting. And I really kind of favor wisdom as your core stat in this case, because you're going to be using your animal strength and dex and con most of the time anyways. So there is that where you're not going to be, you're not really a straight up barbarian. So in a melee brawl where you're using your greatsword, you're not going to compete with an actual full-on barbarian. You're just not. There's also a problem where rage requires a bonus action, and your shape-shifting may require a bonus action. In which case, you won't be able to do both of them all in the same turn because you only have the one bonus action. This isn't necessarily a game breaker by any means. You could rage one round and make your attacks, and the next turn or the next round you just shapeshift, or vice versa. So I don't think it's a deal breaker, but it's definitely not the seamless mix that some of the other multi-classes have been either. I also think that just the fact that you're not going to be able to, at least not until higher levels, you're not going to be able to cast spells in your animal forms, really means that in any given round, unlike, say, the Paladin Sorcerer again, where you could, on any round, be like, am I going to be a fighter this round, or am I a sorcerer? Or am I both, because I'm going to quicken cast a spell and still attack? You had those options with that class. With this one, you really do have to make a choice on any given round of combat. Am I a melee character or am I a caster? Because you cannot be both at the same time on this character. And so, as much as I like the combination, it does have some flaws and some weaknesses. And I think it'd be really unfair to not make people aware of those things before they go into it. I do like a lot of the roleplay potential from this mix. Like I said, I think that this idea of like a Grizzly Adams type guy, except that he is his own bear. He doesn't have a friend bear. Oh, he could conjure animals. But I like that kind of personality, this like rough, rugged man of the mountains who not just has friends with animals, but can also turn into the animals themselves. I like that idea. I like the idea of being able to speak with animals and taking a bunch of those type of spells. And I think it would be a very fun character to play, especially in certain types of campaigns. I think that in a non-urban campaign, this character could really excel, especially in more of a wilderness survival campaign. This kind of character would just be awesome for that kind of thing. But like I said, I don't think it's as strong as some of the other ones, but that's okay. I kind of wanted to cover a mix and talk about things that I thought were really strong, some that are not so strong, but still have a lot of potential. And that's the thing, I don't want to undersell this either, because at higher levels, when you've got lots of animal shapes per day, and you can rage a couple times, and you've got a reckless attack, then I really think this has a lot to offer. Because unlike just say a straight up druid, where you're a lot more limited because you're just stuck to whatever the animal forms you can change into give you. In this case, you've always got a couple of rages to fall back on, you've got some reckless attacks that you can use, and you're going to be able to get a lot more out of those animal shapes. You also might not have to use a lot of feats for things like, say, Resilient Con, there you go, because you're going to have that already. Warcaster is a lot more optional because you're already going to have Constitution saving throws as well. And so it starts freeing up some of that kind of stuff. If you really wanted the extra feat, you can always go with like a 4-16 mix, and then you're not going to be behind on any ASIs at all. But then it just depends. Will you rather have the 9th level spell? And I think shape change is definitely probably worthwhile in that case. Druids do have kind of limited, armor and weapon choices in a lot of cases. They kind of have a weird mix. A lot of this goes back to like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, where druids weren't allowed to, use metal armor and could only use a couple of different types of weapons, mostly simple weapons, and include things like scythes for cutting wheat and stuff. It was a really strange, eclectic mix, and a lot of that is kind of carried over into the modern game still. They are better these days, but I think that one advantage of using the animal shapes means that you're going to be able to ignore a lot of those kind of like weird, funky rules regarding druids as well. You don't really care so much about, whether or not you can use metal shields or not, because, you're going to be using your animal forms. So that's kind of my thoughts on the class. As always, feel free to leave comments in the comment section. I promise to read every one of them. And since the channel is still very small, I also feel like I can take the time to respond to them. I might not get to them right away, but I promise that I will. Also, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and all that stuff. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.